So here we are tonight. So let's get started. Thank you for coming out. Thank you, Amelia, for your inviting me here. I put this up because anybody who's worked with me over the years knows that, having worked in so many different industries and different companies, I always have plenty of stories, and I can't resist. I'm always trying to share one or two. So I decided I'm going to share one with you tonight. So my girlfriend and I moved into an apartment together not that long ago. And after some time, she says to me, "You know, Tony, I love our apartment. You know, it's just charming. I love our neighborhood. It's exquisite. And I love the $1 million view, the Toronto skyline. It's just enchanting. However, just like a performance review, there's a however. However, she says, I hate the fact I have to go downstairs to the laundry room to do laundry." And I responded, "But that is the ultimate in luxury." And she looked at me and she says, "What you talking about?" Right? So I said, "Well, let me explain." I said, "Think about it. When you lived in a house, you took your basket, you went down the stairs, and you had access to one set of washer and dryer. Now, however, you take the elevator downstairs, and you have access to multiple washers and dryers. Now, that's cutting laundry time significantly, isn't it? Now, isn't that what Agile is all about? Isn't it about doing more work in less time because everyone's empowered?" So that's my story. Okay, I'm not a comedian, sorry. So let's get to tonight's story. Sink or swim, as Amelia introduced. It's about changing methodology midstream. Should you do it? Should you not do it? Why? So the way I'll get into talking about this, I'm not going to talk about Agile specifically. I'm not going to talk about Waterfall specifically. However, using the storyboard, thanks to my half-witted film career, I'm going to share you a case study of where we changed methodology midstream and how the project team actually handled it. So what I'm looking at is more the human element of project delivery. Like I said, it is a real project. It was completed last December, so fairly recent. It was to implement an enterprise mission-critical workforce management solution. So WFM, Amelia, is Workforce Management Solution. Okay, CRM, you said you knew. And CMS is Clinical Management Systems. So just because you asked. So what was the motivation? Well, it all started one day. The executives were at a bar, enjoying their martinis, flavor of the day. Geez, the crowd is really quiet tonight. So no, they weren't enjoying martinis, but it was probably at a bar, and they thought about this. And the motivation was, listen, we've been on this program now for 4 years. A lot of the team members had been on the program for just as long. And it was time to get these resources off this program and get them reassigned to other initiatives. So the executives came to the project management team and asked, how can you make it fresh and new again? So that was the challenge to the team. And so this is how the idea began and got germinated. So specifically the challenge was, it's a 4-year program. We're now in our final year. We had just completed a go-live in January for year 3. Okay. Now we have to kick off year 4. Now if anybody's been on a long program knows, especially from a project management perspective, it takes a lot of cheerleading, it takes a lot of, brouhaha, pom-poms, as I like to say, to keep the team motivated. It's got one more year. We got to get over the finish line, right? So how do we get them motivated again and finish by calendar year end? Now, part of the challenge, of course, the team consisted of a complement of 45 FTEs. There were clients and consultants from various organizations. The FTEs were everybody from system engineers, business analysts, process engineers, testers, change management, trainers, and of course, subject matter experts. Like, it was the full meal deal. The other part of the challenge was that the client team members were long tenure. A lot of these folks were like 20 plus, 30 plus years. I think I was there for a couple of people's anniversaries where they got their gold watches and so forth. So it was a culture of let's stick to the familiar, to the tried and true. So how do we, the project management team, navigate this big ship, because that's what it felt like, to be quick and nimble, faster decision making, shorter approval process, and lighter documentation. To date, in that moment in time in January, the project history of using the waterfall methodology resulted in long periods between delivery of functionality. So from the recipients of the solution seemed like, okay, so when is the next release coming out? And when's the next release coming out? It just seemed like it would take forever from an end user. Because they didn't really see or understand the amount of effort and work that was required to get there. The other challenge that we had was, and I'm sure everybody's seen this, teams worked in what we called herd mode. I don't know if we can coin that and trademark it, I'm not sure, but herd mode meaning that everybody on the project team worked on one problem at a time. So we couldn't seem to get them to focus on different things. So it was just quite the challenge. So what did we do? So we decided to go ahead with the Agile methodology. And in that, to try to be successful, we enrolled 2 certified Scrum Masters. And we provided links to Agile methodology. There were cute videos. I'm sure people have seen them on the website. The other thing we did, of course, was we took all the user requirements that we had. And for those of you who are familiar with Agile methodology, we converted them into user stories. And of course, we prioritized them. We also established a process for creating concurrent streams of teams, because we had 45 people on board, and we're trying to get everything done in less than 9 months. So we established a process of concurrent streams of teams to work on the user stories, whereby each team consisted of one person from different competencies as required to deliver the user story. The other thing we also did, those of you who are familiar with Agile, is we defined a 3-week iteration sprint. Why not, whatever. It was the magic number we came with. And the way the 3-week iteration sprint was defined was on day 0, we had the formal kickoff by the project management team, whereby we assigned resources to the streams and their user stories. And then on day 15, there was a formal presentation by each of those teams in an auditorium where their audience was actually the client sponsor, the project management team, and their peers. Now I'm very curious, and I'm going to ask you, what do you think happened when we introduced this concept and when we began to execute it? Anybody? Sure. Good one. Anybody else? Panic. Very good. Anybody else? Sorry? Disbelief. That's another good one. So we got resistance, panic, disbelief. Anybody else? Confusion. I love it. One more. Excitement. Yeah? No more? Okay. Well, it wasn't a party as much as we were hoping it to be. Okay? So there was no jumping up and down. There was no jubilation. There was no dancing. Okay? As some of you may have guessed, and some of the responses we just received, the results were very mixed, interestingly enough. We did have some people that were excited about it and embraced it, and they became very studious and learned about it, took the time, went through the videos that we provided, whereas others were confused. I heard someone say confused. So they were confused on the methodology, the process, and their role. Others actually had anxiety and stress, and they said, 3 weeks? You can't do anything in 3 weeks. Some, believe it or not, were even defiant. The words we were hearing was, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to call and facilitate a meeting. I'm not presenting. That's the PM job. It was very real. So as a result, what happened was we had what I like to call heat loss. Heat loss due to lack of understanding and accepting that they were now empowered. We actually empowered them to work as a team in these units and actually deliver something in 3 weeks. I think the confusion for a lot of folks was, does 3 weeks mean completion of requirements, test, deliver? Well, the answer is no, because anybody who's done Agile doesn't necessarily mean that, right? It means creating a work product that gets you to that end, right? Now, of course, because we had a lot of resistance and heat loss from a project management team, there was a tendency of being short-term focused because we had to keep people moving. We had to keep encouraging them. And so what was happening is we were losing sight of the big plan, okay? There was a lot of the tug and pull. The other thing we found interestingly, once momentum started getting a little bit better, is we found scope creep became an issue. It became an issue because as we had the faster delivery cycles, the business found through the SMEs that we could maybe provide more functionality, improve more processes, and they thought maybe that would be useful. So that was an interesting challenge. So the million-dollar question is, did we succeed? Well, we did. But it wasn't easy. I can tell you that. I think I've gotten grayer since I've been on that project. Momentum was very slow in the beginning. But I want to thank, the leadership and the change management specialists that we had on the team who helped coach and influence individuals. And those individuals, as they got coached and influenced and started to feel better about themselves, they became empowered and excited. And very interestingly enough, they became our ambassadors and they helped us pick up speed. So it was very slow in the beginning, but we did pick up momentum. So eventually what did happen was it did create a sense of urgency because now we had 3 weeks. We have to present. So in that process, they became empowered. And then a true sense of collaboration truly came into play. Something we did not see in the first 2 years of the program in the Waterfall methodology. Because those of you who have been in that world and are in that world, have been around the block a couple of times, have some of the war wounds that I know I have. There's a lot of passing the baton, throw it over the fence, right? Because of this 3-week iteration, there was no time for throwing anything over the fence. It had to get solved by that team. So once they got started, they learned to start working together and to quickly realize and determine whether or not the user stories that were assigned to them, was it achievable to deliver in the 3 weeks? So as a project management team, we were challenging them to try to do more. And in the early iterations, it was interesting, people didn't know any better because they were confused and didn't understand this process all that well. They also didn't stop and say, I don't think I can and whatever. They just accepted it, and of course they would fail. And so then our scorecards were low in the early iterations, right? So as we started to do this and they started to believe in themselves, believe in the process, they got very good at, okay, what can we deliver? What can we not deliver? And they will come up with the recommendations, right? So they became a lot more empowered and they were very comfortable in approaching the project management team and the response saying, we can do this, but we can't do that, and here's why. Right? So that was very good. So in the end, we did have several releases to production throughout the year. That was the beauty of having these constant iterations. I think we released every 3 iterations. So every 9 weeks, we're going into production, delivering something. We did complete and had the final go live of December the 1st. That included a soaking period of 2 weeks. And by Christmas time, the entire team was disbanded and reassigned to other projects. So we're pretty proud with that. So it's great, we succeeded and it's wonderful. But within our own organization, within the project team as a whole, we did take a moment of introspection. What could we have done different or better? So what we thought about was upfront training rather than links to videos probably would have reduced some of the anxieties and some of the stress. Possibly a way to do that could have been getting a certified instructor on site. One of the things I know we could have done better was better communication to explain why are we doing this. What is the value of changing methodology, especially now in the final year? What's in it for them? And what was expected of them? So, it's obvious, hindsight is always 20/20, right? The other thing we found ourselves, especially in the early iterations, and the things that, we'll ask you to watch out for, and I know we will, which is the potential pitfalls, which is people going back to what they're familiar with. And that is, a series of many, many waterfalls, and I've tried to say that a few times. Because that's what people still wanted to do. They still had this tendency of passing the baton, as opposed to working in a group. The other thing that I know we could do better the next time around is formalize that role of change agents. We did a little bit happenstance. It worked for us because, lucky for us, we did have change management specialists on our team, so they were huge proponents of us, and they helped us do this. Because we do change management with our customers. When we deliver our solutions, our recipients of our solutions, we do this. So why not do this for our teams? But it's funny how change management is something, an afterthought when it comes to project teams. So it's a decision not to be made lightly, right? There are lots of tools out there that do suitability scorecards. We at the Absolute have ours as well. Which look at organizational readiness, look at team readiness, look at project complexities. Does it really make sense to do this? A number of companies involved. But one of the things I've learned throughout my career is that even though you may have so many scorecards and maybe say, and I think the way this project particularly rated was really think about it hard. But even though it said that to us, we decided to have the gumption, the fortitude to let's do it anyways. Sometimes it's good to have a goal, a stretch goal, and so that's what we did. The other thing we definitely would recommend to do better, which is clearly define that process that will continue to maintain the long-term view, because that's what the executives always wanted. And like I said, in their early iterations, we struggled because we're trying to keep the wheels turning, and of course make it fun. So we did our best to make it fun. What we encouraged the teams to do was, when you're doing a presentation, don't just present the slides like I am right now, but make it fun, make it a skit. So some took on the challenge, they had fun with it, so others didn't. We tried to do team building events where we'd take them up for half a day, because it was intense. Don't let me fool you. It was very intense. It was 3-week sprints. So we actually planned where we would take the team for half a day and we did a barbecue. We would call in the ice cream truck and bring the ice cream in. So little things. It seems like not much, but it was very much appreciated by the team. We actually, in one of the presentations, even had the executive sponsor, the CFO, come down and the COO. And they liked that, the fact that they came down, they were listening, a little bit nervous, no different than I am here today. But it showed that there was support from the executives, and that really made them feel good as well. Geez, I really blew through this presentation. So that's all I have, but I'm open to the questions and stories, and we can make this a little more interactive, right? But I do want to thank our sponsors. They did trust us with this process. They entrusted us. I want to thank the management team that, through their leadership, the support in helping us influence and coach the teams. I also want to thank the project team. I know when we did our final closeout on December the 15th, Um, you know, I thank them for their dedication, their commitment, their trust, their perseverance, and their willingness to learn and adapt. This was very new to them. Okay. I personally, you know, I'm very thankful for, you know, my esteemed guests. You know, they're namely Andy, Derek, Tim, and Lorraine. Uh, without whose support, I think this would have been a very difficult project to achieve in that final year. And so they were very instrumental to us, right? And then I want to thank, you know, my colleagues that are here tonight to support the organization and myself as well. So thank you for coming out. And of course, thank you. I expected this to take a little longer. I thought, you know, it was going to be a little more interaction, but I'm open to questions. So